So I've touched upon this recently in my Forsaken System Players Guide video, but I thought that actually this is quite a large topic in itself. So without further ado, here is a quick list of the things that I'd love to see come up in future expansions for Wrath and Glory. The first one on my list is a new starter kit. So we've already had a starter set from the original iteration of the game, from the original publishers, but it would be great to see a refreshed and rehashed version of the starter set with which to play with. The original had a quick start type rulebook with 6 pre-made characters, a small introductory adventure called Escape the Rock, which for all intents and purposes is a fun and well-designed booklet that helps guide the GM into the new system, or those new to GMing altogether. It also came with 2 double-sided playmats that were relevant to the adventure, some dice and some tokens, which is actually not too bad. I'd love to see Cubicle's iteration of this. Now that they've released a Soulbound one, I'm hoping that a Wrath and Glory version is on the horizon. So I'm going to repeat myself a little here as I touched upon this in my Forsaken Players Guide, but I would love to see some expanded archetypes for the Zenith races. In particular, currently for the Aladari there are only 3 archetypes, a Tier 1 Corsair, Tier 2 Ranger and Tier 3 Warlock. It would be great to see an expansion on the Aladari archetypes further down the line, something like Striking Scorpions, Howling Banshees or Fire Dragons. Maybe we might see these appear as Tier 3 or 4 entries in a future update. So for the Orcs, currently there's only a Tier 1 Boy, Tier 2 Commando and Tier 3 Nog. Part of me hoped for a dedicated Pain Boy to act as an apothecary of sorts, and a dedicated Weird Boy Psyker, a Tier 4 entry with specific Orc psychic discipline to accompany this. Hopefully that will come out soon. For the Kroot, currently with the new Forsaken System Players Guide, there's a single archetype entry for the Kroot, and that's the Kroot Mercenary. I'd really love to see a Tier 2 or maybe 3 Kroot archetype for the Shaper. That would be cool. So for the Rattlings, which is also introduced to us in the Forsaken System Players Guide, I'd love to see a Rattling Road type or even the Rattling Slopper as a support class, which would add some great character and flavour into the mix. So, on to the races. With the recent introduction of the Rattling and Ogryn Abhumans in the Forsaken Players Guide, I would really love to see Squats. Squats are basically the 40k version of the Dwarf, and have somewhat of a cult fandom. Recent Necromunda entries and models of Squats, such as Grendel Grendelson, Ragnar Gunstein, have started popping up though, which is really cool. I'd love to see this reflected in the Wrath and Glory system at some point. Beastmen might also make for a nice bit of species diversity as well. There are a number of Beastmen throughout the lore of 40k, in particular off the top of my head is Gore Halfhorn from Necromunda fame, most of which, similarly to Kroot, are mercenaries and slaves. So, vehicles and space navigation is also a popular ask amongst fans, and probably the most homebrewed topic that is that of vehicle rules. Either to pilot or to fight against, people seem to love the idea of getting in a rhino and tearing through waves of Tyranids, or piloting their ship through space. That being said, back in June of last year, the announcement of the Church of Steel confirmed this is definitely in the works, as well as pets as well, which should be pretty exciting. A Necromunda setting and campaign. This is something more personal to me, but I've seen no end of requests or asks, possibly the most that I've encountered people asking for, and that is of a Necromunda expansion. I've actually, albeit slowly, been working on one myself, but I would welcome and love an official one, including unique traits for the specific gangs, the weapon profiles, and some cool encounters set within the Underhive. My final wish would probably be something like a separate and concise Bestiary. Who doesn't love another resource book? I'd love to see a Bestiary with full army entries on that of Tyranids, for example. I get the Wrath and Glory is for all accounts a young tabletop RPG and had teething problems when it first began whilst being handed over from one company to the other, but a Bestiary with more diverse entries should be on the cards soon. There's only so many entries in the core rulebook before GMs will have to start adapting their own, and I know I have already, but it'd be really great to see some more entries, some diversity with their own little flavours and abilities as well. That's my thoughts for now. Pop in the comments if you have any of your own thoughts about what you'd like to see in the future for Wrath and Glory, and we can discuss it.